Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Scrap Mechanic. This time I'm going to be visiting the bot factory by Mickey3390. Now, I have completed it before and I had it all recorded, but the audio messed up, so I'm having to redo it. That is why everything is marked as complete, and you will see some previous times. Hopefully I can beat them. Level 1 is just going forward from the start to the finish. To do that, all I'm going to need is just a basic platform with a motor and just a couple of wheels. Oh, let's do something like this. That's a little too fast. How about put it on 7 and send it on its way. Alright, out of the zone and back in. 6.5 seconds, give or take. Level 2 looks like go up to the wall and stop without touching it. Eh, 3 wheels is enough. Sensor on the front. Make it detect the wall 2. And then a NOR gate, that way while it's not seeing the wall, it will power the motor. Set it. I set it to 6. 7 was a little fast last time. Okay, fine, I'll give it another wheel. There. Off it goes. Oh, stopped a little too close. Setting the distance sensor to 5, it should stop it a little bit away from the wall. And off it goes. Perfect. Out of the zone. Back in. 10 seconds. Level 3. Alright, just a simple avoid falling off the edge type deal. I have only one electric motor, but do have 2 controllers, which should be plenty for that. So, start with the basic platform. Put a motor on there. Add the controllers. Then add the wheels somewhere around the center of gravity. Or center of mass. That way these wheels will get the most traction, while the wheel on the back will get much less. That way the back wheel can skid around as the car is turning. Now to keep it from falling off, couple of sensors, move them out some, that way it sees the edge before the wheel gets close. Sensor here, sensor here. Set them to 20. Let's see. The edges are white, so make those into edge detectors. Perfect. As for connections, should double bearing these. So add another block, another bearing in the wheel. Same here. A block of bearing in the wheel. Nice. Now, as for connections, the motor moves the car forward. The controller moves the car back, or moves one side or the other back. To activate those, let's say this sensor sees the white line, so that means it needs to stop the opposite side, so the car turns away from the line. As for the motor, half speed, sure. Instead of a full 360, let's do this. Fast and loop. 180, 180. Fast and loop. That way, the wheel going back is a little bit slower, but it wouldn't freewheel the wrong way once the controller stops controlling it. Well, let's give it a shot. Out the gate. Alright, it sees the line, turns away from it. Sees the other line, turns away from that. And goes perfectly centered into the gate. 17.7 seconds. A new record. Level 4. I think that's level 4. Is it a level 4? No matter. See what I'm working with. Alright, over here looks like grab a ball and move it back. No. Just push the ball forward. Okay, that's a lot simpler. Once again, start with a basic platform. Something like this. Give it a single motor. Move it towards the front. Something like that. Bearing in a wheel, no need for double bearings. Bearing in a wheel. Very nice. And I'll give it some sort of a fork to grab and control the ball. Something along these lines. Make it front wheel drive, that's fine. Bump it up to 6. And set it on the way. It looks like a car got knocked off the course for whatever reason. Let's try it again. Seems to be going nice and straight. Ball goes into the receptacle. And with that, a 10-second finish time. A new record once again. Level the next is a bit more complicated version of last one. This time it's a combination of a line follower, or rather, edge avoider, and a ball pusher. Or a combination of the two, it is going to be a platform with a fork on the front. This is a little bit too wide. Sensors on either side. Then wheels on double bearings. And something to hold up the backside. Like that. To power the contraption, one motor, and two controllers. As before, the motor moves the car forward constantly, while the controllers slow down each side, making the car turn. Once again, 180, 180, fast and loop. Crosswire the sensors and set them to detect the wide edge of the platform. Set it to half speed and let's see what happens. And it's probably a bit too fast for its own good. To keep it from running off the edge, slow it down, let's say to 5. So a little bit under half speed. Gets close to the edge. Turns. Very nice. And then slowly but surely proceeds to the finish line. "38 seconds. Not bad at all. Also, a duck. Is it there in every level? Yep, sure is. Alright, this level here is go up to the wall, pick up a ball, and drive backwards to deposit it. Okay. Oh, nice, some pipes, so the double bearings look a little more professional. Although this time double bearing is not even necessary because this is just a straight line. Although, come to think of it, yes, double bearings will be necessary since there is no way to just reverse a motor in scrap mechanic. So make a fork so it can grab the ball. And just so it doesn't get too wide, these wheels are going to be unpowered. And then a wheel on the other end is going to be the one on double bearings. Then one motor is going to be for forward, the other motor is going to be for backward. Might as well set them to, let's say 5, so it's not as bouncy. Another advantage of the front wheels not being powered is that if it runs into the wall, it's not going to try to climb it. To show you what I mean, here it is with just a front wheel drive, and if I take it off a lift and observe it, once the car gets to the wall, it will try to climb up on it, and if it's fast enough, it will bounce around. And moreover, if it's all-wheel drive, then once it gets to the wall, it will just straight up climb on it. Which is not what I want in this particular case, although that will come in handy later on. The sensor is going to detect the ball. Set it to, let's say, 2. Do I have a timer? No, I don't know. A timer would have been helpful for the whole grabbing thing. However, that's not detrimental. And for the logic gates, let's say if it's not detected, then the forward motor is on. If it is detected, the back motor is on. In addition, I do not have a controller, which is fine. Wait, really? I don't have a controller? No matter. A piston can be used to hold the ball in place just as well. And then this whole piston is going to be powered by the forward logic gate. That way, if it doesn't see the ball, the piston is going to be lifted up. Then once it does see it, the piston will come down and capture the ball before the car goes backwards. You know what? Keep it from bouncing as much. Let's put a switch on the back here someplace. Of course, that will require a couple more logic blocks. And the motors will be powered through those. And then the logic blocks are going to be connected to the switch. Now activate it, and why are you not moving? That's why. We got a connection. It is just a little bit off center, but it did grab the ball eventually, and it looks to be lined up with a receptacle. Very nice. 23 seconds. A little slower than expected, but a new record nonetheless. The level the next is still fairly simple. Go through checkpoints and don't fall off. Now, since I don't have controllers this time, it's actually a good thing. I would prefer to be using engines, and I have plenty of them this time around. Wheels on double bearings, somewhere a little bit forward of the center of mass to give them the most traction. A wheel on the back here. This is fine using one instead of two, again, just for lower traction. For the front, there are going to be sensors around here. A little bit past the wheel, so they see the edge way before the wheels get to it. And lastly, for the connections, the front motor is, or rather the back motor this time, is going to propel the wheels forward. And then the front motors are going to act as brakes, reversing one of the bearings on either side, and therefore slowing down the wheel. As for speeds, sure, the back one is at 6. Sides, I can set them a little bit higher, that way the car will go backwards on the side instead of just stopping. That should be good enough. Oh, a little too fast. But instead of slowing down that one motor, I'm going to speed up the sides. Oh yeah, a bit jerky, but it's no matter. It's doing what it's supposed to do. Sort of. It did go through in 58 seconds. But I'm not really happy with how it did that. So, how about speeding up the forward motor? Now, steering authority is not going to be as great, but overall speed will be. And as soon as it decides to actually go out of the garage, that would be great. And what'll happen first? The car will finish the course, or I'll manage to jump up. Wait, where is the car? It fell off. Let's make you a little heavier and hopefully a bit less bouncy. Alright, is this gonna be better? Let's see. And perfectly lined up to go through the final gate at 56.8 seconds, which is a new record, so it actually was slightly faster than before. The level the following looks like a basic hill climb. While the obvious solution is to just build a small platform, put a single motor on there, a couple of thrusters, a whole bunch of bearings with a whole bunch of wheels and just turn it on and send it on the way. I'm still not quite liking it because, well, it just seems too boring, honestly. Let's make it a little more interesting and let's pretend that the thrusters are as much of a fuel hogs as they are in survival. Take off the switch, take off the back wheels, because I will need a free bearing. Let's move these wheels back some. Not too much though. That's just to make the whole thing a bit more stable, since it will be a three-wheeler. Alright, and now with the spare bearing, what I can do is add a pendulum that has a color sensor on the bottom. And that color sensor is going to detect... Okay, let's make it something a little more obvious. How about dark blue? Much better. And now the idea with the pendulum is, once it swings back and detects a color, it is going to activate the thrusters, help the car climb the wall, and the thrusters will turn off once it gets to the top. And that will be that. Out the gate you go. Perfect. The bar with a sensor tilts backwards, activates the thrusters, and allows the car to climb to the top. Then once it gets to the top, the bar swings forward and shuts off the thrusters. 28 seconds make it considerably slower, but a bit more interesting as far as the machine itself goes. And of course, when I'm not in a hurry, I make a jump on the first try. Typical. Anyway, looks like this level is just go, make a turn, grab a ball, back up, deposit the ball, and then repeat it a couple more times. To make that happen, I'm going to use all 4 of the motors just to make it slightly easier on myself to program, because the car will need to reverse and be fully controllable while doing so. Got plenty of sensors. Make it a fork. As a matter of fact, I can probably make it wider if need be, but I do believe the ball will fit in here. Set this one to 2 blocks. That's fine. Make a fork a few blocks longer. Now for the fun part. And the fun part is going to be making sure the fork doesn't fall off first. And then around here, installing the wheels on double bearings. These are going to be the control wheels, while this one will once again just be a stabilizer. As far as wheel connections, sure, you go forward, you go back, and you go back. Perfect. Set you to 6, sure. Oh, almost forgot to put more sensors on what is the back side of the car. Something like so. Fine, you've convinced me. I'm gonna make it symmetrical. There. But don't expect me to paint the bearings. What am I, con gaming? Actually, I will go ahead and make the forks a little bit wider, just so it doesn't have to be as perfect on the ball to grab it. Good enough. And to make the ball stay in, just a simple wall here. And a simple wall here. And it actually doesn't matter that the front hangs over past the sensors, since if the forks are empty and it hangs over the edge, let it be. It has nothing to lose, quite literally. And I'm just realizing that you should be over here. Very nice. And then for the sensor, make that into another block. And when the sensor does not see anything, then the piston is extended by 5. Yep. Perfect. Now it's ready to capture the ball. As for motors themselves, this time around each one will need its own logic gate. And as far as connections for these go, I believe... Oh, never mind. These should stay as AND gates. They will be for the forward motors. They will also be activated by the same logic gate that goes to the piston, which means that these motors can be activated only when going forward. Therefore, if the left sensor sees the edge, it's going to activate the left motor. The right sensor will activate the right motor. Therefore, turning the car away from the edge. Then, once the sensor notices that the ball is in there, it is going to activate the AND gates for the reversers. And likewise, when this right sensor notices the edge, it will activate the right motor. And the left sensor will activate the left motor. So the car turns away from the edge. It's going to wiggle around a bit as it moves, but this is the simplest way to hook up the logic for the machine. So let's see if this is good enough. And I believe, yeah, I forgot to set it to color mode. Hey, stop that. Now, once the sensors are properly set to be edge line detectors, it is still not moving. Okay, what's happening? Oh, what is happening is that now both sensors are inactive, therefore the car doesn't move forward. Some rethinking of the logic later, and looks like I'll be going back to the original plan, which was each sensor goes into its own AND gate. Then the ball detector is going to activate the forward sensors if it doesn't see a ball, and activate the back sensors if it does. From there, each of the motors gets its own OR gate, so it can be turned on by different sources. And let's say sensor doesn't see anything, so both forward motors are on. Then if a sensor on the right detects the edge, it is going to reverse the motor on the left, therefore stopping the left side, and turn the car to the left away from the edge. When the car is in reverse and is hauling a ball, then these backup gates are now active, and the rear sensors are active as well, and they're crisscrossed to the motors, which are now the reverse motors, which will stop one side of the car or the other and hopefully make it turn away from the edge.
And I saw, and behold, spaghetti.
Kind of a neat symmetrical spaghetti, but spaghetti nonetheless. Let's see it do something. How'd you go? Alright, get up here just in time to see the car drive off the edge. Great. I think that can be remedied by just moving these sensors forward some. Plug them back into their respective end gates. And off it goes once again. So far, so good. Making it around the first corner just fine. Approaching the ball, it should self-center a little bit. Grabs the ball and moves back. This has gone way smoother than I expected, because usually it would sort of bounce forward and back as the ball goes in and out of the range of... great. I just had to say something, didn't I? To keep that from happening, I'm going to move this sensor a couple of blocks back, since it will be the first one to detect the line. Set it at 20. Plug it back into the end gate. And set the car on its way once again. Suddenly I got an urge to move this sensor forward by one. For no well-explained reason. Well, the reason, of course, being the sensor will be seeing the line first, and the car needs to go the other way anyway, so might as well let it detect the edge a little bit sooner and start to turn a little bit sooner. Oh, great. Did you make it make a little more sense? Where is the paint tool? Sure, let's make forward pink and a back teal. XOR. Now, instead of being activated directly by the gate, goes into the XOR, then into the OR, and then the sensors are connected directly into the XOR gates. Yeah, Wasn't sure if they'll need to be crisscrossed or not. Don't think they will. Now approaching the corner. Stops completely. Alright, what's going on here? Okay, these do need to be crisscrossed. And then that means that these should also be crisscrossed. Right? Bigger forks and a slightly longer detection range for that one sensor allow the car to grab the bulb before it gets too far into those triangles and starts bouncing. And making it back around the corner pretty well. Lining up for the ball socket. And the first one is delivered. And with the last ball deposited, it's a 3 minutes even. Wow. I have never gotten 5 zeros like that. Still, it's a new record, which is always a good thing. Hey, Agent West from your future here, coming in to say that there is a way to build a bot like this with only 9 logic gates. 4 XOR gates, each one corresponding to its own motor. 2 of the engines are to go forward, 2 are to go back, and of course, one side of the engines corresponds to one wheel and controls forward and reverse. In addition to these 4 XOR gates, there are also 2 pairs of AND gates, a forward pair and a reverse pair. And lastly, there is a sensor and a NOR gate. The sensor tells the car that it has something in front of it, and the NOR gate tells it when it doesn't have anything. The NOR gate also controls the piston to raise and lower the ring to capture the ball. As far as connections go, while it does look quite complicated, in fact it's fairly simple once you understand the concept. For example, the NOR gate controls the forward pair of XOR gates, therefore making the car go forward, as well as it activates these forward AND gates, which get their signal from their respective sensors on the left and the right. When one of those AND gates is active, it turns off the opposite XOR gate as well as turning on the reverse XOR gate on the opposite side. In this example, the right side keeps going forward. However, the left side is put in reverse, making the bot spin, pretty much on the spot. As for why this particular bar is so complicated, it's just so I can use 2 sensors to detect each of the edges instead of just one. Simply because there is a limited number of sensors in this particular level. And by the way, the reverse controls are pretty much the same as forward, except for they're controlled by the sensor directly, which activates not only the reverse and XOR gates, but also the reverse and AND gates. Lastly, that same sensor extends the piston on the back, which moves the whole sensor bar to the back of the machine. That way I can use the same set to control both forward and reverse. As for how this machine performs, well, let's find out. And with that, 2 minutes and 38 seconds. A new record that's 22 seconds faster than before. One more level, and in this one, that is, go through the gate, pick up a ball, drive over a couple of bumps in the road, go through a checkpoint, then climb up a wall while still holding the ball, deposit the ball, and stop on the elevator, go down. After that, it's another ball delivery to another socket, and finally, the finish line. To accomplish this task, it should be a matter of work for the ball, some wheels on the front to keep it up off the ground, with some double bearings for the actual drive and control and all that. As far as the motors go, it is a single forward motor and 2 control motors. And of course, to hold the whole contraption to the track, it's going to be 2 of these thrusters. And these thrusters are going to be activated with a switch. Well, let's use pipes this time around. And actually, if the front of a car sort of rides on the ball and off the ground, that's not the worst idea. Still going to be low friction, it's just more ground clearance, to be honest, because the ball is bigger diameter than the wheels are. So that should be enough to hold it. And then to make sure it doesn't roll out, something like this should be plenty. I'll add a sensor here to detect the ball. Set it to 4. It does need to reverse, luckily, so it will be sort of driving into the ball, so that's fine. And you know what, as far as the thrusters go, I will go ahead and use all 4 of them, even though it's not strictly necessary. But I will bring the front ones down to half and set the back ones to a little bit under half, just for balance's sake. Actually, do it the other way. That way, not too much pressure is applied to the front of the car, and more is applied to the back, where all the movement and steering and all that good stuff is going to be coming from. Now, do I need to actually stop at the top there? Probably not, but I will anyway. And to do that, sensor, some logic, and really all that is just a NOR gate. So this goes forward. Do need another NOR gate for the sensor that sees the ball. Get it to open up the cage when there's nothing there. Four away from the fastest. Alright, that'll fit out the gate and go over the ball just fine. Oh, and of course, before I forget, now these will be the actual guide sensors to keep a car on the road. Yeah, that's hopefully not too wide, otherwise it will get stuck. But it's not a problem because I can always just narrow it. And you are going to be a color sensor. And another color sensor. And then these motors are going to be for reversing one side over the other. Yep. As far as speed goes, sure you go to 5. Go to 5. And you go to 5. Now, okay, the forward-looking sensor is going to go through this NOR gate. And then if you do see something in front of you, then the car will stop. Again, not necessary, but I just don't want it to be driving into that wall over by the elevator and then potentially driving just completely over it. Off it goes for the first test drive. Okay, so those sensors are the guide sensors are a little bit too wide, which I was worried about. But that's quite alright, it's an easy relocation. Let's see what happens. I think I got something reversed. Alright, a little bit of a redesign. All thrusters are a bit more powerful now, and the back thrusters have been moved up so the car doesn't get hung up on the slopes anymore, making it easily through the first checkpoint. Up the wall ride. Not exactly a conventional way of doing it. Up to the first ball socket. And down the elevator. Do, after some wiggling, pick up the second ball. And bring it to the second socket before completing the level in 2 minutes and 50.5 seconds. And with that, that's half of the challenge pack completed. Next up, it's no more edge avoiders. It's all about the line followers now.